4,843. That's the number of days since this lad made the announcement that Apple were to release the first generation of a device that would go on to change the way we live our daily lives forever.
These are not three separate devices. This is one device. And we are calling it iPhone. Today, Apple is going to reinvent the phone.
Since production began, Apple have manufactured 2.2 billion iPhones, which have sat firmly in our pockets, handbags, and palms like an irreplaceable, beloved pet. Recently, though, there's been a growing sentiment that the way we use our phones has negatively impacted our lives by increasing anxiety and reducing our happiness.
We've all been in that situation when we've been with someone who just cannot take their attention away from their phone. Who's kidding who though? That was probably you, and that was also me. Now, I'll be honest, I've also been through that phase where I've thought that phones have been ruining our lives. And then I had a realization that phones were not going anywhere anytime soon. And actually having this source of ultimate knowledge, complete connection, and power at our fingertips is part of the next evolution of humans. So phones are here to stay, but that doesn't mean we have to be a slave to them. In this video, I'm going to take you through a few really simple strategies that have completely transformed the way I use my phone. It's time for you to start using your phone as a tool instead of your phone treating you like one. One of the most beautiful elements of phones is that we each have the ability to customize it how we want, but that's also one of its massive downsides. We end up just defaulting to the way that app companies want us to set our phones up. The way they want us to set our phones up, they want us to set our phones up as if they're like slot machines at a casino. Well, let me introduce you to the one single metric that all app companies care about the most. It's time in app. This is the single metric that all internal projects and processes at app companies are focused on increasing, getting you to spend more time in their app. Just like a slot machine, every time you get a payout, you get a little dopamine hit from your brain that makes you feel a little bit warm and fuzzy feeling, which is exactly what happens when you open up one of those apps. Apps like Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, they're all triggering the exact same neurological feedback mechanism that slot machines do. And app companies know that. So what does this all mean? Well, it means that apps on your phones, especially social media apps, are literally designed to hook you in and grab your attention and never let go of it. I'm going to walk you through 3 really simple strategies that I've employed in the last few months to make sure that my phone isn't controlling me and I'm actually in control of my phone. So number 1 is get rid of any apps that you haven't used in the past 6 months. Just like the same rule that I have for clothes, if I haven't worn it in 6 months, I just donate it, I get rid of it. The same thing you're going to do to your apps. You don't have to donate them, you just get to bloody delete them. This is a really great opportunity to get rid of those super low value apps that aren't serving you any good. First of those are games apps. They are hoovering your attention away from you actually achieving your goals. The second one I recommend getting rid of are news apps. So finding out that something bad has happened 8,000 miles away on the other side of the world, that is just going to go towards you feeling stressed out about something that has got nothing to do with you and your life. Your life will be better by getting rid of news apps, so get rid of them. Time for number 2, which is the real game changer in all of this. Listen carefully, because this will be one of the most powerful and empowering things you will ever do with your phone. By turning off all notifications, banners, and badges, you are getting rid of all the tiny little micro distractions that are preventing you from staying properly focused on what you want to achieve. There are 3 main reasons why turning off notifications are an absolute power play here. Firstly, notifications are uncontrolled interruptions to you achieving your goals. They prevent you from ever getting into a proper flow state where you are most productive. Secondly, the brain science around learning requires you to have sustained focus for you to grow myelin around your neural pathways. That's basically what brain plasticity is about. However, if you go about interrupting that process, you'll never get the myelin growth around your neural pathways, which is what locks in whatever it is you're learning. Notifications equals a stunted life. Thirdly, but in my opinion, most importantly, those little red dots and red numbers that float on top of apps, they're called badges on iPhones. They're the little things that are telling you that you've got messages or notifications within your app. Those little fuckers are causing you anxiety. Every time you unlock your phone and you see one of those badges on top of one of those apps, and your brain all of a sudden just goes, God damn, I need to find out what this is. It might be something important. Guess what? It never is anything important. The truth is, If there's something of real importance or urgency, someone is gonna phone you. So what I've done is I have turned off all badges, so I don't get any of those red dots or red numbers on any of my apps apart from 2 apps. Those are my key messaging apps. Those are the ones which I actually want to use a phone for, so iMessages and WhatsApp. I keep those on. So the magic in this is that all of a sudden you've taken back control. Now you decide when you want to check your messages instead of your phone deciding when you're going to check your messages. This is an infinitely more efficient and productive way of using a phone. This way you can batch check all your messages a few times a day and you're not constantly taking out your phone, picking it out of your pocket and just getting distracted. The important point about this is that you are not letting anyone else in your life dictate when you do something, just based on whether they've sent you a message or not. Don't let someone dictate when you want to do something. Be the master of your time and you make that call. So there are 4 classes of apps that are an exception to this rule where I keep notifications on because frankly that's the main purpose of those apps. The first set of apps that I keep notifications on are for travel and delivery apps. So apps like these that could be like Uber, Amazon, whatever they are, where you need to get a notification to tell you when something has arrived. The second one is Google Maps. So I don't use the Apple Maps app. I'm not a big fan of it. I use the Google Maps app and I keep notifications on for that. The third one is the calendar app because not missing scheduled meetings is basically one of the main points of having a phone. And the fourth one is actually phone calls. So of course I actually get a ringtone when someone's trying to call me. The takeaway message from this is you need to turn off notifications for those apps that aren't serving you any value. And the ones that aren't serving you any value are games, news apps, and social media apps. Turn those little fuckers off. I promise you, you do not need to know that Karen poked you yesterday on Facebook. So what's the final piece of the puzzle? The third and final strategy is to hide your social media apps. Just like placing cookies in a cookie jar above the fridge out of reach, you need to do the same thing for those social media icons. You need to hide those little bastards. The way I do it is I create folders of apps with similar functions, and then I hide the ones I use less frequently on a second page of that folder. The rule that I use is if I use it on a daily or weekly basis, it gets to go on that first page. Cool, let's take you on a little tour about how I set up my phone. So first thing with my phone is you're gonna see a few red badges here. Now, the reason is because I've actually gone through and I've reset all of my notifications to send through these badges. So let's go into some of these and you can see that I've got some on WhatsApp, and I've also got some on some of my apps that I don't use, like Domino's. All of a sudden I've got a notification. It's in the middle of the day, I'm never gonna get pizza. And then on social media, on the folder that I have for social media, I can see that I've now got some notifications again. TikTok, I actually never go on TikTok. So the fact that I have 10 notifications for TikTok is absolutely absurd. It really goes to my point of how these apps are trying to just grasp your attention. So let's turn these off. So if we go to notifications, and we'll go into settings and notifications, and let's find all of those apps. So let's start with TikTok because frankly that is the most abhorrent of apps. So we'll turn off all notifications for TikTok. Let's go find Facebook and we'll turn off all notifications for Facebook too. And we will find Instagram, turn all notifications off for Instagram. So whichever social media apps you use, turn off those notifications. So for example, the App Store, I don't need any notifications for the App Store. My banking, I don't need any notifications for my banking. These ones here, so Bird and Bolt, these are travel apps, so I'm going to keep these notifications on because they are actually part of the actual requirement of the app. So I'll keep notifications on for those. I don't use iCal, so I'm going to turn this off. I use Google Calendar. So let's go and make sure that Google Calendar is turned on. And that's all good, we've got it all turned on. Suggestion to you is to go through the process and turn off notifications for all of these apps. I've gone and turned all of these back on, so I need to go back and turn all of these off again. Let me show you now how I set up my home screen to use my phone as the incredible tool that it actually is. So I'll start down at the bottom. So I have my 4 most commonly used apps down at the bottom in the bottom at the dock. So I've got my phone, my camera, my internet browser, and Spotify. Those are my 4 most commonly used apps. Then just above that, I have my podcasts and Audible app. And then I have my 2 note-taking apps, which are my Notes app and Notion, which is my main note-taking app. I used to use Evernote, but I recently moved over to Notion and I've been liking it. Then above that, I have my social media apps, and this is exactly where I showed you the process of hiding those apps. If I go into that, I've actually got all of my social media apps hidden on the second page, so that when I go onto my home screen, I'm not all of a sudden just being like bombarded by social media. So really remove those triggers by hiding them into the second folder. Then we have Google Maps. Like I said, keep notifications on for that. And then I have the G Suite in one folder. If you don't use a password management tool, highly recommend using one. I use 1Password, but other options are things like LastPass. Definitely do that. It's a way safer way to operate your phone and all of your passwords. And above that, I have MyFitnessPal. That's an app that I use multiple times a day, so I need to access that. Rapidly. And then I have the navigation, then I have a navigations folder, which is where my main navigation apps are. These are ones which I'll use on a daily basis. And then I'll have ones on the second and third folder, which are apps that I use less frequently. Then I have my photos, then I have my photo editing apps, Lightroom, Photoshop, VS Code, and then I have other ones on the second folder. My finance apps, the main 3 ones that I use are in the first folder, and then again, less commonly used ones on the second folder. I won't go through the rest of these because you need to set this up how it's going to be most beneficial to you. Obviously keep Shazam there because let's be honest, that's the best app that was ever invented. And then at the top, I have my Google Cal, weather and clock, which I use as an alarm. So that's a quick tour through my phone and how I've set mine up. If you do one thing today, spend 30 minutes going through your phone, delete those apps that you don't use, turn off notifications for all of those social media apps, and hide those social media slot machines. Do those 3 things and you will be well on your way to having a little bit more peace and tranquility in your life. If you thought this was useful, give the like button a little bump. And if you have any mates that spend too much time on their phones, do send this video to them and hopefully you can have a bit of their time back. If there are any apps that I haven't mentioned, I don't use, or I could benefit from, please let me know in the comments below so I can check them out, and you never know, might make a video on them in the future. Right, have a nice day and see you lads next time.